After all of this, I think that it's actually pretty hard to make heads and tails of the red pill community. I mean, it's really easy for me to refute their points, to expose their ideas as flawed, to expose their motives as suspect, to mock them or condemn them or critique them. It's really easy to pull from a million different academic sources that debunk even the most basic statements amongst them. It'd also be very easy for me to say that there's a problem with feminism and not being good enough at reaching out to men, or not doing enough for men, to agree with men's rights activists to some degree, or to find some flaw on our end in regards to the conversation. I think the hardest thing for me coming through all of this is to sympathize or to humanize, and that's something I think is very important for progress, is learning how to see the humanity in any statement, in any person, in any belief, in any video or article. The problem is whether or not I or anyone can even afford to do that, given how dangerous the red pill mentality can be. When I started this video, my goal was simple. I wanted to discuss the red pill community as a sociological phenomenon, and an example of human behavior leading to social ailments, for both those outside the community and those within it. I wanted to take the information that I would find and clearly showcase why this needs to be addressed and why this needs to be discussed, analyzed, broken down, and refuted. I do think I've done a pretty good job at these goals, but I also feel a little hollow afterwards, and I'm not sure what it is. My history as a trans woman is not unlike the scenarios that a lot of these men find themselves in, that position of being seen as inferior masculine specimens, up to and including the harassment and bullying and physical violence that boys would inflict on me growing up. I grew miserable about women, but not out of hatred for women or out of a desire to sleep with women, but of a desire to be friends with women and to be one myself. I guess I internalized these circumstances as evidence of why being a man just wasn't something I was okay with. I didn't want to reclaim masculinity. I wanted to leave it, to abandon it. It is a bit hard for me to sympathize with men whose masculinity leads them into this mentality, because I rejected masculinity altogether and grew much happier because of it. I don't think asking men to reject masculinity is the correct answer at all. I just think that masculinity as they perceive it is so deeply wrong. As such, the only thing I can think of is to recreate masculinity, not in the image of Tyler Durden, but in an altogether more positive image, one that works with women, one that empathizes with women and with people of color and with LGBT people, one in which one's manhood and even one's masculine power is not threatened by vulnerability or low status or associating with those who are not like oneself. On a bigger, higher level, there has to be some sort of major change to how we conceive of masculinity. But the question I want to ask is, how can we, by which I mean people online who interact with people from this community and who try to make the internet a safer space for marginalized people, how can we make it easier to recreate masculinity within these circles so that when we interact with red pillars, it doesn't sound nearly as scary to abandon the conspiratorial logic that they've been pushed to adopt? In my opinion, we need to call out behaviors and beliefs that are unethical or that justify unethical behavior. And we need to recognize that anybody who believes in the core tenets of the red pill community has some degree of complicity in some really terrible treatment of marginalized people, particularly women. I'm not one for tolerating harmful behaviors, and I draw the line when someone is resigned to treating others like garbage. So I do think we need to minimize the capacity for people in that category to do harm. For those who are more along the way of being a red pillar who believes in harmful things but doesn't act out in harmful ways, I think it's important to find a way to distance those beliefs from those people by breaking down why those beliefs are poorly formed and making it easy to ditch those beliefs in favor of something better. For those who are not yet a part of the community but have those early signs of feeling inadequate in terms of masculinity and feeling awkward about women, I feel like the main goal there would be to foster introspection and self-improvement over pointing fingers. In fact, I think in general the best thing to do is to find a way to foster introspection and self-improvement. I just have no idea how to even begin to do that for people who have already surrounded themselves in such a community. If I were to answer what I would do, then I'd only refer you back to this very series, because this series is my answer to what I would do. Discuss the issues in the community and in the ideology, and sympathize but ultimately condemn the harmful tactics of the red pill community and show a vested interest in making it known that there is a really big problem here. I can't say what you or anyone else should do, but I can say that I would like to see more of a change to how we conceptualize the issue, thinking less so in terms of the community as a singular entity, and more so as a collection of individuals with shared traits in terms of beliefs, predispositions, and histories. On a most abstract level, I feel that the best option would be to make it easier and better to leave than to stay with such a terrible line of thinking that the red pill community pushes onto people. In terms of how to do that, I don't know, which is why I ask anyone watching to offer suggestions or to offer perspective. I would especially love to hear from former red pill members as well as men who have found themselves in the vulnerable position that leads to joining a place like the red pill, but who may have not ended up there themselves, and what stopped them, what pulled them towards thinking better and more healthy thoughts. Of course, the red pill community has overlapping with harassers, and as such, I would also like to hear from those who have been targeted by the rhetoric of the red pill community. So if you have experience dealing with them firsthand, please feel free to offer your perspective as well. I come at this series from the perspective of a sociology student who has spent a lot of time in internet circles and wants to bring the two together, to analyze the internet from a sociological and feminist perspective, and to tie what I find into what I've seen, heard, and read from academia and from feminist voices. Granted, I don't speak with authority, just with insight, and I hope my insight might be in some way valuable, but I'm just one person, and I hope that this series is more of a jumping off point rather than a stopping point for discussing how best to approach the issue of working against masculine entitlement and the feelings of inferiority that mix so toxically with said entitlement. If anyone has any ideas for further steps to take for continuing this conversation as it applies to the red pill community or any other community, feel free to contact me. And if you have any requests for other communities or ideologies or phenomena that you would like to see me take a look at, again, feel free to contact me. My goal isn't to portray myself as an authoritative sociological perspective, but as an advocate for feminism and sociological perspectives and analysis. As such, I dedicate my Patreon to saving up money for school and channel expenses, as I hope to someday become a sociologist myself. And I'm flat broke when it comes to paying for college, so if you like the work I've done here and would like to support the channel, feel free to donate, and as I often say, generosity is appreciated but not necessary. My videos will always be available to people for free, and I don't make them for gain, but to try to help people in any way I can. Thanks for watching.